Where was your first kiss?
Her name was Lisa. It was in her garage. It was 4th grade. She was one street over. I ran home afterwards.
Decades of fame, heartbreaks, and yet one woman was never erased from Brad Pitt's heart. Now, at 62, he's finally breaking his silence, hinting at a love that refused to fade no matter how much time passed. Not the most obvious one, not the one everyone expected. So who is she, and why does her memory still linger after all these years? Today, we uncover the memories, the emotions, and the rare admissions that point to the one woman Brad Pitt could never forget, and why her presence still echoes in his life. By the end of this, everything you thought you knew might change, but the real question is, who is she, really? Small town, boy, and first loves. Before the fame and the headlines, Brad Pitt was just a regular kid with big dreams. William Bradley Pitt was born on December 18, 1963, in Shawnee and raised in Springfield. He grew up in a simple, conservative family. His father ran a trucking company, his mother was a school counselor, and life was steady and predictable. Nothing about it suggested he would one day become one of the biggest stars in the world. But here's where things take a turn. Brad didn't even plan to become an actor. He wanted to be a journalist and studied at the University of Missouri. Then, just 2 credits before graduating, he made a bold decision. He packed his bags, took about $300, and drove to Los Angeles. No clear plan, just a strong feeling that he had to try something different. Life in LA wasn't glamorous at all. He took on odd jobs just to survive, loading refrigerators, driving limousines, and even dressing up as a giant chicken to promote a restaurant. At the same time, he kept going to auditions, facing rejection over and over again. Most people would have given up, but Brad didn't. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1991, he appeared in Thelma and Louise as a charming drifter. It was a small role, but it made a huge impact. Audiences noticed him instantly, and that one performance launched him into stardom almost overnight. As his career began to rise, his personal life was also quietly taking shape. In the late 1980s, he dated British singer Sanita, followed by actress Jill Schoelen. He later had a brief but meaningful connection with E.G. Daily, who described him as soulful, a word that captured something deeper about his personality even back then. There were also shorter moments, like his connection with Robin Givens and a fun date with Christina Applegate at the 1989 MTV Awards. These weren't long-lasting, but they were part of his journey. Then came a relationship that truly stood out: Juliette Lewis. They were together from 1989 to 1993, and it was intense, emotional, and very real. Brad would later call it one of the greatest relationships of my life. Even after they went their separate ways, there seemed to be a quiet respect between them, as if what they shared never completely faded. And just when it seemed like that was his most meaningful early relationship, another one began. In 1994, while working, he met Gwyneth Paltrow. Their connection was immediate. They fell in love, got engaged, and for a moment, it seemed like this was the one. Brad even called her the love of my life during his Golden Globe speech, a statement that stayed with fans for years. But by 1997, that relationship also came to an end. Looking back, these early years weren't just about fame or success. They were about growth, emotion, and connection. Each relationship shaped him in a different way, revealing a man who loved deeply and wasn't afraid to show it. And when you put all of it together, it raises one quiet but powerful question. If all these women meant so much to him, then which one stayed in his heart the longest? Brad and Jennifer Aniston. Everything changed in 1998. That's when Brad Pitt reconnected with Jennifer Aniston, and this time the timing was finally right. They had met years earlier through their managers, but nothing happened back then. Now everything clicked. Their chemistry felt natural, easy, and real, and people around them noticed it almost immediately. Soon, the whole world was watching. In September 1999, Brad proposed after a Sting concert, a moment that felt straight out of a movie. Less than a year later, on July 29, 2000, they got married in Malibu. It was a grand celebration with about 200 guests, huge floral arrangements, and fireworks lighting up the sky. From that moment, they became more than just a couple. They became the Hollywood couple everyone admired. For the next 5 years, they seemed almost perfect. Brad was at the top of his career, starring in major films, while Jennifer was one of the biggest stars on television. In interviews, they laughed together, finished each other's sentences, and looked completely comfortable with each other. It didn't feel staged, it felt genuine, like they truly enjoyed being together. Their connection went beyond just romance. They even co-founded Plan B Entertainment, demonstrating trust and partnership behind the scenes. To fans, it looked like a love story that had everything: success, friendship, and a deep connection. It felt like something that would last forever. But then, slowly, things began to shift. By late 2004, small changes started to show. The warmth in interviews felt slightly different, and their public appearances didn't seem as effortless as before. It wasn't obvious at first, but something had changed. In January 2005, they announced their separation, and by October, the divorce was finalized. For Jennifer, it was deeply painful. In a Vanity Fair interview, she described the experience as shattering. Around the same time, photos of Brad with Angelina Jolie began to appear, especially from the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. For many fans, it made the situation even more emotional and difficult to process. But here's what no one expected. Instead of staying distant or bitter, Brad and Jennifer slowly found their way back to a friendship. Over time, they rebuilt something different, but still meaningful. In 2019, Brad attended Jennifer's 50th birthday party, surprising many people. Then, in 2020, their warm moment at the SAG Awards went viral. The way they smiled and interacted didn't feel awkward. It felt familiar, like two people who still understood each other. Later that year, during the Fast Times at Ridgemont High Table Red, their playful chemistry caught everyone's attention again. Fans couldn't stop talking about it. It was light, fun, but also carried a sense of history between them. Jennifer later made it clear in 2021 that they were just friends, nothing more. Still, one detail continues to stand out. Back in 2007, Brad once described their connection as something that had been preserved in a special way. That word stayed with people. And that's why even now, many still wonder, out of all the relationships he's had, could Jennifer Aniston be the one who never truly left his heart? Brad and Angelina Jolie. Just when the world thought it had seen Brad Pitt's biggest love story, another chapter quietly began. While fans were still adjusting to the end of his marriage to Jennifer Aniston, something intense was already unfolding on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In 2004, Brad met Angelina Jolie, his co-star. On screen, they were a married couple with secrets. Off-screen, there was chemistry, sparkling, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. By the time his separation from Jennifer became public, rumors of a connection between Brad and Angelina were already spreading. It didn't take long for the world to catch on, especially after a now iconic beach photo surfaced in Namibia, showing the couple with Angelina's adopted son, Maddox. That photo confirmed what fans had suspected. Something real was happening. Their relationship quickly became more than just a Hollywood romance. It became a family story. In 2005, Brad officially adopted Maddox and Zahara, stepping into fatherhood for the first time in a serious way. The next year, they welcomed their first biological child together, daughter Shiloh, born in Namibia. That was followed by Pax in 2007, and then twins Knox and Vivian in 2008. By the end of the decade, they had created a blended, vibrant, and international family. 6 children, all growing up together, traveling the world, and experiencing life as part of one of the most famous families on Earth. While they were building this family, they were also building an image that captivated the public. Brad and Angelina weren't just a couple. They were Brangelina, Hollywood's ultimate power duo. They traveled the world together, worked on humanitarian projects, and appeared on countless magazine covers. Every move they made seemed significant. Their love felt intense, exciting, and larger than life. Fans watched every interview, every red carpet appearance, and every family photo. Their story was thrilling, glamorous, and often seemed untouchable. They didn't rush into marriage, even though they got a lot of attention. They took their time and enjoyed the life they were making together. They got engaged in 2012 after dating and raising kids for years. Finally, on August 23, 2014, they got married in a small ceremony at their Chateau Miraval estate. The wedding was one of a kind, personal and happy. The kids were a significant part of the party. They helped plan the ceremony and even drew pictures on Angelina's bridal dress. It wasn't just a flashy Hollywood event. It was a highly emotional, family-centered party. It looked like everything had finally come together for a moment. But being happy in Hollywood is not always easy. Angelina filed for divorce in September 2016, stunning admirers all over the world. Their relationship was ending after more than 10 years together. What happened next was long, hard, and very public. The family and the media were always focused on the custody and money fights, which went on for more than 8 years. The process was hard on Brad's emotions. He didn't talk to the public very often, but when he did, he made it apparent that he was very saddened and wanted the kids to be alone. He tried to keep them out of the public eye as much as possible, even though there was a lot of legal drama going on. Brad has been candid about this part of his life even after years of problems. In 2025, confirmed sources said that he stated he knows he made mistakes and that he loved Angelina very much. Those remarks are important because they illustrate that this wasn't simply another celebrity romance. It was a relationship that changed their lives. Angelina wasn't just his girlfriend. She was the mother of his 6 children and the person who shared one of the most important, intense, and passionate times of his adult life. She helped shape the family he would love for the rest of his life. By December 2024, the divorce was finally finalized. More than 8 years after the initial filing, it was officially over. And yet, when a relationship is as deep and as intertwined as theirs, it doesn't simply vanish. Even when the legal ties are severed, the emotional and familial connections remain. Their children are a living link to a shared history that is impossible to ignore. Now, in 2026, with Brad Pitt at 62, fans are watching closely as he reflects on his life, career, and relationships. Every statement he makes is dissected for hints of what he truly feels. And with the Angelina chapter now officially behind him, people are asking new questions. Could the reflection he's hinting at actually be about her? The mother of his children, the woman he once called the center of his world, and the person who shaped more than a decade of his life. It's a question that sparks curiosity and speculation because the intensity of their history is undeniable. The love, the children, the shared experiences, it all leaves a mark. And as fans consider the trajectory of his life, from small-town beginnings to Hollywood fame, it's clear that Angelina Jolie wasn't just a headline. She was a pivotal part of his story, one that shaped him as a father, a partner, and a man. So even now, years after the divorce, the question lingers. Out of all the relationships Brad has had, out of all the love stories, is it possible that the woman he could never truly forget is the one who gave him so much more than love, who gave him family, intensity, and a life he would never forget? Life after the headlines. After the intense years with Angelina Jolie came to an official close in December 2024, Brad Pitt's life shifted into a quieter, more private rhythm. For someone who had lived under the public eye for decades, this period offered a chance to step back, breathe, and focus on himself and his children. But naturally, people were curious. Who was Brad dating now? Would Hollywood's golden heartthrob ever find love again? For a while, the answers were unclear. There were rumors, brief sparks that caught attention but never seemed to last. In the years immediately following his split from Angelina, whispers linked him to architect Neri Oxman, though both denied any romance. In 2020, casual dating buzz emerged with model Nicole Poturalski, and 2 years later, in 2022, headlines suggested a light fling with Emily Ratajkowski. None of these relationships developed into something long-term. Fans watched, speculated, and then moved on, As Brad continued to maintain a careful balance between public curiosity and personal privacy. Then something changed. In November 2022, Brad was spotted with Inez de Ramon. She wasn't a headline-grabbing star. She was grounded, creative, and private, almost the opposite of the whirlwind of his previous relationships. Reports suggest they met at a Bono concert, a moment that would mark the beginning of something meaningful. Unlike the flash-in-the-pan rumors, this connection seemed to grow slowly, naturally. By early 2024, they had moved in together. And in September 2024, they made their first public appearance as a couple at the red carpet premiere of Wolves. The images from that night spoke volumes. Brad and Inez, looking comfortable, affectionate, and genuinely happy. For the first time in years, he appeared completely at ease in a relationship, showing a side of himself that was calm, grounded, and quietly content. It was a contrast to the intensity, the paparazzi frenzy, and the emotional highs and lows of the Brangelina era. At 62, Brad seemed to have found a partner who fit his pace of life, someone who complemented rather than complicated it. But even in this new chapter, there is a calm tension and wonder that keeps people talking. Brad thinks about the past a lot, even if he's happy with Inez. Interviews, casual comments, and insider observations all point to a continuing presence in his heart. After years of love, heartbreak, and high-profile romances, the media and fans can't help but wonder, is there still one woman who stands out to him? One who changed his heart in a way that no one else could? This feeling of lasting love isn't just a guess. Brad talks about love, memories, and connection in a way that makes it clear. He regularly talks about how some relationships leave permanent traces, whether when he's talking about his current life or prior events. It's the kind of quiet, personal thought that most people have, but that a global superstar rarely shows. And it's what keeps fans interested forever. For someone who has loved so openly, the thought of a single unforgettable person in his life adds a level of mystery, closeness, and emotion that goes beyond the tabloids. Brad has had a hard time finding a balance in his life since the news. He has Inez, a companion who gives him security, love, and a sense of normalcy. But his prior relationships, the good and bad times, the lessons he learned, are still a part of his tale. They all work together to make him the man he is today. Thoughtful, private, yet still very much a person. For someone who has been very famous and loved, finding tranquility in a stable relationship is a big deal. But the question lingers in the background, almost like a gentle echo. Out of all the chapters of his life, all the loves, all the experiences, is there still one woman who truly occupies a permanent place in his heart? One who can't be replaced, forgotten, or overshadowed by time? Fans, naturally, can't stop wondering. The intrigue is part of Brad's story, part of what makes his life endlessly compelling. At 62, Brad Pitt's life is quieter, more measured, and perhaps more fulfilling than ever before. He has love, stability, and family. Yet even with the long shadows of his past behind him, the question remains, who is the woman that lingers? The one whose memory, connection, and impact continue to shape his heart and story, quietly and profoundly, even today. And there you have it, the story of Brad Pitt's loves, heartbreaks, and the one woman who may have never left his heart. What do you think? Could she be the one he truly never forgets? If you enjoyed this journey through Hollywood romance and secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more exclusive stories.